Hi guys, I wanted to start with a video about decimals. So we've all seen the question before on exam papers. It looks something like this: put these decimals in order. So I'm going to teach you how to do that and give you a try on it. Get a piece of paper ready and sit down and focus yourself, and I will begin when you're ready. Right, so the first thing is we line up our numbers like this to help us see what columns all of the numbers are in, because we know that this is the units column here. This first column, the one that's next to the decimal point, represents how many holes there are. So there are no holes in this number, but this number here, 1.3, has one hole. So immediately we can see this is the biggest number. This next column over is the tenths column. It's 10 times smaller than the units column. So that's what this column represents. That 4 means 4 of these, 4 tenths. And this next column, 7 and 0 are in it, 2 columns over from the units. Again, we need to make this 10 times smaller. So I'm going to split it into 10 and just take one of those pieces. And that's what the 7 in that position is telling us, that it's 7. Lots of these. These are hundredths. They're called hundredths because 100 of them would fit into a hole. If we took one hole and split it into 100 pieces, it would look like that. The 7, again, it's going to be 10 times smaller, so we're getting really small now. Something like this. It's a tenth of that. So it's 10 times smaller every time, and 10 times bigger this way, so 10 of these would make up one of these. The 3 in the next column is going to be ridiculously small. There it is. So let's think. How much is that? Well, this is 1/10, because we took a whole and split it into 10 pieces. This is even smaller, it's 10 times smaller. It's a tenth of a tenth. It's 100th. This is 1,000th. This is, wow, so small. It's 1 over 10 to the 4. And the next digit over is going to be 1 over 10 to the 5. Okay, so, and that would be just ridiculously small. It's here, I'll show you. So, there we go. That's 100th already. That's really small. So it's 100 of those would fit into a unit. That's 1,000th. 10 times 10 times 10. This is 1 over 10 to the power of 4. That means 1. 10 times 10. It's 100 times 10 again. Times 10 again. And the next column over would be 1 over 10 to the 5. And there it is there. It's really small. Okay, so you can see how the pattern continues. So what does that tell us about the size of these numbers? Well, that 4 represents 4 tenths. 0.37 is 3 of those. 0.37 is 3 tenths. And then 7 hundredths. This 0.00734. Well, it's none of those. It's no hundredths either. It's 7 thousandths. 3 10,000ths and 400,000ths. It's tiny. There it is. So it's a really small number. 0.2 and 1.3 would look like that. So when we look at them like that, we can see 1.3 is the biggest, clearly. Then we need to decide which one is the next biggest. Clearly you can see it's 0.4, that's got 4 whole tenths. And this has only got 3 tenths and then some of the hundredths. This one doesn't even have any tenths. This one has 2 tenths. And looking at the numbers, we can see that when we look down this column, 4 is the biggest number there, so that's the biggest of the remaining ones. Okay, so of the remaining ones, 0.37 is the biggest. If we're just looking in the column now, we see that 3 is bigger than 0 and bigger than 2, and that's this number here. It's got 3 tenths. And then we've got 0.2. And then this tiny number, 0.0734. So hopefully that was useful for you. I'll give you another practice question to try now. Okay, so pause the video, try and put these numbers in order. Okay, so now you've had a try. Here's the solution. Hopefully you got it right. Knowing, as I do, that this is the most significant column, this is the one that contains the units, or the ones, I can see straight away my biggest number is either going to be 1.5 or 1.06. So I need to decide out of those two which one is biggest. Well, so I'm going to look, they've each got 1 whole, but 5 is bigger than 0, and that's in the tenths column, so that's got 5 tenths and 0 tenths. That 6 is in the hundredths column, it's in the next column over, so it is much smaller. So our biggest number is 1.5. The next biggest number is 1.06. Now I have to look at the remaining 3 and decide which one is biggest. So they've all got 0 in the units column, so I'm going to go over to the next biggest column. 7 tenths here, 1 tenth here, and 3 tenths here. 7 is the biggest. So I don't care about these numbers here. They represent a smaller amount. This 7 is worth a lot, so 0.7. Okay, so we're down to the last 2. Which one is bigger? This only has 1 tenth, this has 3 tenths. So 0.35 is bigger than 0.198. So hopefully that was useful for you, yeah, maybe practice a little bit more. You can look up some questions, and I will be posting more in the next days. Bye.